What's up, guys, and welcome back to my YouTube channel, Masika Reaction. So, guys, I want us all to watch this about this Arab man sending a warning to the colonies about their bad behaviors and their bad deeds to the Jamaicans, Black Americans, and Africans. So I want us let's watch together until the end, and I'll be back with more comments.
I saw someone in the comment section the other day saying that, telling me that I shouldn't say the West, I should say Western imperialism to differentiate it from, oppressive Western policies. Okay, I don't know if you've ever known me to be imprecise in my choice of words. I say the West because that's what I mean. I also saw someone saying on the same video that I'm just bitter. How astute of you. Of course I'm bitter. I'm a Westerner. That means that I was taught a fictitious story my whole childhood about the West. And I didn't actually get any sort of decent education until I was an adult. And it wasn't provided to me. I had to search it out. I had to find it out. It was hidden from me. And what I found out was that I actually come from a civilization that never civilized. I came from a so-called civilization that is identical to abject primitivity. I came from a so-called civilization that's what you would expect from people who were raised by wolves. It's like your culture was dropped on its head as a baby. The brain of this so-called civilization has a deformed amygdala. The prefrontal cortex of the Western mind is missing. It's like a psychopath. So yes, I learned that I came from a so-called civilization, a so-called culture, that completely failed to develop. We're like the moronic bully in school who pushes people around as a kid, never pays attention, never learns, never studies, and never changes. So that everyone that he bullied, eventually surpasses him in adulthood, in every conceivable way, in maturity, in skills, in knowledge, in intelligence, in career, in health, in relationships, in everything. While he remains a stunted man-child who nobody can stand, no one wants to be around. Well, that's the West. Every Westerner has been deprived by their ancestors of a history that they can be proud of. A history that gives them a chronological record of their development, their advancement as a people. Because the West is just as primitive, just as barbaric, just as shallow, just as selfish, petty, deceitful, and immature as they were 3,000 years ago. So I say West because I mean the West. You can't divorce imperialism from the so-called civilization that imperialism emerged from. This isn't even just about the endless crimes of the West against the rest of the world. No, I'm talking about the whole so-called culture, the so-called civilization that has utterly and miserably failed its own people. You literally had to suppress everyone else, oppress everyone else, burn, loot, and destroy everything that everyone else had, everything that they built, that everyone else built, everything that they accomplished, just so you could try to make your so-called civilization look developed, only by de-developing everyone else. You had to tie their hands and feet just to pretend that you could beat them in a race. And again, it's just like some dumb bully in school who cheats on his test, cheats on his homework. Okay, you'll get an A on the test, but you're still dumb. And you won't progress educationally at all. That's not going to benefit you. Your appearance of knowledge on a test you cheated on is short-lived. Whereas you can lock the smart kid in the gym locker, but he's still the smart kid. I mean, imagine, you go all around the world and smash up everything that other civilizations built, loot what they built, pillage, steal, even steal their ideas and their concepts and their philosophies. And then you sit on top of this mountain of stolen goods and declare yourself to be rich because of your own merit. And imagine telling this lie to your children, to your own children, to your grandchildren, generation after generation. How do you think that's going to go? You didn't invest in creating actual merit. You cheated, you lied, you stole, you brutalized, and then you tell your own people that everyone else in the world has nothing and you have everything because of how much better you are than everyone else. How long is that lie sustainable? I mean, these are people who actually have civilizations, who actually created and built and accomplished and didn't just pillage and plunder. And there's still those people today, even though you have oppressed them, there's still those same people And you're still the way you are. Wallahi, the West let its people down. The West let their own people down. I mean, a good example actually is African Americans. I don't know if you can think of a people who were more held back, more deprived, more sabotaged than African Americans. You took everything away from them and took them away from everything. They started in your country at less than zero, literally regarded and treated as subhuman, not allowed to learn to read or write or anything for hundreds of years. But you see, they come from a people of accomplishment to one degree or another, not a people of piracy and theft and appropriation. They come from a people who created and built and developed in their own countries, in their own land. And even though you did everything that you could possibly do to suppress them, to hold them down, to hold them back, and you're still doing that until today, nevertheless, I don't think anyone can dispute the fact that African Americans have become a global cultural superpower. Culturally, they're a superpower. Whatever cultural soft power that America has in the global South, it's African American. And China, one of the most ancient civilizations on earth, over 4,000 years as an organized civilization. You tried to destroy them, tried to poison that society with opium. America has tried for decades to destabilize and undermine and sabotage China. And they're totally surpassing. Today, they're surpassing you in everything. Their technology is better than yours. Their relations with the rest of the world are better than yours. Their economy is healthier than yours. Their schools are better than yours. Because they are a people with a history of actual homegrown accomplishment and development. And people like this, with a history like this, with a legacy like this, simply cannot be held back for any length of time by a people who do not have a similar history, people who have never actually invested in their own civilizational development. And that's the West. You're going to get left behind. You're going to get surpassed, and you are going to end up being nothing more than a footnote in history. Because the peoples of the world who have genuinely developed civilizations cannot be kept down indefinitely. No one, for example, bounced back from Western imperialism and colonization faster than the Muslims. Because our foundations are too strong. Our history is too strong. Our achievements are too many. Our culture is too rich. Our beliefs are too powerful. You could only inflict superficial damage on us. The whole history of Western colonialism in the Muslim world only amounts to a flesh wound. Our empire was never based on being a political entity. Political governance was a byproduct of belief. Our empire was an empire of faith. And that empire remains completely intact today. And it will always be intact. But everything that you call Western civilizational achievement is stolen. From your architecture to your philosophy. You are appropriators, cheaters. Even your Greco-Roman so-called philosophers, who themselves took from the Egyptians, even these foundational thinkers of what you like to call Western philosophy, if it had been left to you, they would have all been left in the dustbin of history, if it weren't for the Muslims. We taught you what they said, and when you learned it according to Muslim interpretation and correction. Their ideas passed through us before they ever reached you. So even your so-called enlightenment, your discovery that reason and rationality are things that exist, well, you didn't discover that. We taught you that. And we were able to teach you that even before any Muslim ever read Plato or Aristotle, because the Muslims are people who have always deeply invested in their own intellectual development. So the Enlightenment, Europe's big eureka moment, was just copied and pasted. You're fakers. The only way that you can ever have an idea is to take it from someone who has ideas. And you've been historically incredibly stubborn about not developing, not maturing, not civilizing. It's really remarkable. I mean, look, even Christianity, when they tried to spread Christianity, even this corrupted version of the teachings of Nabi Isa alayhi salam, the Prophet Jesus, peace be upon him, when they tried to spread this in Europe, they cravenly adapted it to incorporate already existing pagan ideas, polytheistic beliefs, festivals, practices, and so on, until it bore no resemblance whatsoever, not only to the, didn't bear any resemblance not only to the original teachings of the Prophet Jesus, alayhi salam, but not even to the version of Christianity that's followed in the Middle East. Your Christianity was just a repackaging of paganism. Because again, you are dead set against developing. You're dead set against developing intellectually, spiritually, morally, and in every other kind of way. I'm telling you, your ancestors have betrayed you. They betrayed you because they never bothered to invest in your future. They never bothered to actually create and develop as a people. And they only took and stole and pillaged and pretended. So they did not bequeath to you any sort of civilization that contributed genuinely to mankind. It's a so-called civilization only obsessed with destruction, with destructive power, with annihilation, with violence and death. It literally resents development. It resents advancement and creation and building and achievement. It's incredibly negative and dysfunctional. It's incredibly harmful. You literally measure power by its ability to destroy, not to create, by the ability to oppress, not to uplift. And look, before you misconstrue what I'm saying, this has nothing to do with skin color. It has nothing to do with your so-called race. None of this is innate in anyone's DNA. That's an obscene notion. Thinking that way is in and of itself symptomatic of colonized thinking, of westernized thinking. You know, this attribution of character traits to physical traits, the attribution of virtue or lack of virtue to genetics, attributing spiritual qualities to superficial qualities. No, this has nothing to do with that. This is about culture. It's about the legacy of a culture that never matured, a legacy left to the descendants of people who thought predation and pillage was better than creation and innovation and knowledge. A legacy of underachievement as a so-called civilization that thought the ability to take from others was the same thing as merit. A culture that does not understand the importance of the means, but only values the ends, and thinks that if they can acquire the desired ends by vicious means, then they're the same as a culture that can achieve those same ends by honorable means. Like I said, it's just like a cheater. You know, it doesn't matter how I win the race as long as I win. That's the Western attitude. So even if I win by chopping off the legs of the other participants, I can still consider myself to be the best and fastest runner. You see, even if I'm not genuinely an athlete, even if I'm not actually even fast, even if I never trained and I have no discipline and I have no ability, I get to call myself an Olympic champion as long as I can get that gold medal, even if the way that I get that gold medal is by shooting the actual winner of the medal and stealing it off his chest. Everyone has to praise me as a great athlete now because I have the medal. This is literally the Western mentality. That's a failed culture. It's a culture that has failed its own people. But yes, this is not innate. It's not inherent. It's not about white people. I mean, just terms like this, white people, black people, and so on, as if any people are actually literally white or literally black. You came up with these terms just to try to impose the idea that these are opposites, even though all people are actually just shades of varying degrees. You wanted to trap people by these fabricated definitions, these oppositional definitions. But it's all stupid. Again, this is your biggest contribution to humanity that really came from you, imposing a color code on the human race. No, I'm telling you this so that you can recognize that your ancestors failed you. Your culture has failed you. Your so-called civilization has betrayed you. And you should try to come to terms with that fact so that you can potentially free yourselves from it. Because as I've said many, many times, your own so-called civilization mistreated you before it ever became powerful enough to mistreat people outside the West. They brutalized you and they brutalized your ancestors long before they ever reached out beyond their borders and started brutalizing everyone else. And even when they did reach beyond their borders to brutalize everyone else, they didn't stop doing wrong to you. And the worst wrong thing that they've done to you is to make you think that you're supposed to be proud of this history. proud of this culture, proud of this so-called civilization that has left you completely unprepared for living harmoniously with the rest of the world, living harmoniously with all of your brothers and sisters on this planet. This so-called civilization that did not cultivate in you morality or manners or sincerity or virtue or honesty or maturity or mental and emotional stability, not to mention spiritual peace and stability. It's a cutthroat culture. It's a barbaric culture, and it has left you completely at a loss as a people. And yes, it has made you despised, it has made you blamed, and it has made you resented because of your history and because you keep repeating that history with every new generation. See, when I say things like this, Westerners get defensive, and that defensiveness is symptomatic of exactly what I'm talking about. They'll say, let's not dwell on the past. Okay, let's not. Let's look at right now, today. And you try to show me how today is any different from the past. And this is why you get defensive. Because you know that when I talk about the crimes of the past, you can't with any honesty disavow the crimes of the past because those crimes are ongoing. And those crimes are protected precisely by your defensiveness. Well, this is a catastrophic trap that you're in. And you have to get out of it before you sink into oblivion. And no one can help you get out of it. No one is obliged to try to help you get out of it. You have to do it yourselves. Which again is not something that your whole culture or your so-called civilization has ever prepared or equipped you to do. That's what I mean about how a cheater ultimately only cheats himself. You know, when you're a plantation owner and you lose your slaves, well, you lose your crops as well, and you have nothing because you never learned how to grow anything yourselves. You're not farmers. You're like the king in Hamlet, who knows that he can never sincerely repent for his crime because he retains the crown for which he did the crime. And you don't want to relinquish your ill-gotten gains. You don't want to give up that stolen crown. So you get defensive instead of repentant. And there's no solutions for you in your own history. No return to traditional values or what have you. No, that's not going to help you. I mean, trying to go back and emulate the very ancestors who failed to build a genuine civilization and who set you on the very path to oblivion that you're on now, that's not a remedy. So-called Western civilization is a myth, and you're not going to find any solutions as long as you hold on to any belief in that fiction. Your history does not contain any guidance for you, except insofar as it shows you very clearly how not to be. You need to stop digging in those empty pockets. I mean, if you dig into the pockets of Western history, all you're going to do is get your hands stained with blood. Like I've talked about before, your history, your origin in the wilderness of Europe, it was harsh. You were in a harsh environment, cold and formidable. And you took the attitude, your ancestors I'm talking about, took the attitude that violence and dominance were the only means for survival. And this attitude pervades all aspects of your culture, from colonization to marriage, from international relations to relations between the sexes. You can go as deep as you want analyzing that society, Western society, and you can see how this primitive attitude manifests on every level of that society and that culture. And then there's all the lies that you have to tell each other and tell yourselves. Because the West eventually did encounter genuine civilizations, and so they wanted to pretend that they too were civilized. So they espouse all these values and principles and so on that they never adhered to and probably and don't really even understand. And this is where so much of the cognitive dissonance comes from. Because yes, you do have an untarnished human nature, what in Islam we call the fitrah, the intrinsic good human nature that's buried inside you. And that conflicts with your society, it conflicts with your history, it conflicts with your actions, and it conflicts with your ideologies. And you have two ways to try to deal with that conflict. Either you actually resolve the conflict, or you just plaster it over with propaganda and indoctrination and lies. But your culture is a tumor, and it will devour the West in its entirety, just as it devours the conscience of every individual Westerner. unless they undergo some kind of psychological, civilizational radiation therapy. Just as a body rejects and struggles against a tumor, your own conscience rejects and struggles against your history, your culture, and your so called civilization. I mean, you're really in the same struggle as the rest of us, in a way, because the West has been a parasitic tumor on the whole of humanity for centuries, and we've been resisting it. And you should too, because it isn't any healthier for you than it is for us, truth be told. And that's the only reason why I'm telling you this. But you get defensive, and you want to pretend that that tumor is actually a vital organ. Well, it isn't. You can, just like anybody else, you can actually change. You can actually become what you claim to already be. But that can only happen once you recognize and acknowledge that you aren't now what you claim to be. And then you can start learning, inshallah, from the people who really are the thing that you claim to be, which is civilized.
So guys, hope we've watched the full clip. Yes guys, it is so shameful that gone are those days of the colony regime or colony system, because our countries have been depreciating since of these western countries that they are the first growing countries, yes, but remember, they are these black people are the one who are working for them. Remember, during the colony time, a lot of Africans, a lot of blacks were taken to the West countries. We had those one who were working in the kitchen and those one who were working in the farms. So guys, it is clearly said that, and we all know that it was slavery. As they were there, they were used as slaves. Our ancestors did their best until we get the freedom, until we gain our independence. But the independence we had, it is not enough. Until these days, these West Africa countries, they are still intimidating us, and they want us to go back to the back days where they used to colonize. They want to take us back where they used to colonize us and intimidate us and use us as their slaves. It wasn't a good show up because many black Africans, they suffered. Death were discovered and lives were lost. A lot of people, when their families were taken, especially men, they left their family back. But there are some, they did not come back because they died in the slavery, in the hands of colony. Where do you know there are some countries, still some countries that are being colonized and they are forced to pay some certain amount of money by the end of the month because they are still in that colony regime. But this Arab man is just trying to send a warning that gone are those days where we used to be colonized. Yes, remember we had a lot of Pan-Africanism. These people, they used to fight for our rights, but they were risking their lives because whenever you showed that you don't want to support this white man, you are being killed, you are being assassinated. Like the good example we can give it is Marcus Garvey, the likes of Martin Luther King Jr. So guys, this is just part of history that we have, and these are people we had who were trying to fight for black unity and who are trying to fight for civilization. So you see, it becomes a challenge for someone who wants to get back to normal life, but he's being tied off. He just want to work, he just have to work under somebody's instruction, somebody whom gonna those days who is supposed to be at his own country, but it becomes you are a slave in your very own country. It is not even far enough that we can see the USA government, the Trump government, is chasing out the blacks. The other day, we saw those maca farmers were complaining that since Trump is chasing the blacks from the United States, they are suffering. They are used to these people working for them in their farms. So they are suffering. Even they are regretting why did they vote for Trump. But you know, when you go to the States, the racism is so high. Black people don't have any chance there. Until you have been told, these days, even the USA dream is gone, since people are no longer interested in going, not only people, the black Jamaican, the black Africans, and even the black American, they don't even enjoy being there because they are being intimidated. You know, the other word for intimidation is that when a person wants to colonize you and when a person takes you like a slave. So this Arab man just passed a point that we should not go back from where we were from the past days. Remember, the black unity is so important, but the black unity can't prosper while you have the colorism thing. This goes to the Jamaican. The dark-skinned and the light-skinned, colorism has been part of your problem. But remember, we are still one. So let colorism and classism not do us apart from the black unity. Because if we done this thing as one, this thing will remain successful. So guys, thank you for watching. That was all for now. Till next video, God bless. One love.